Greetings fellow gamers, I'm the Soulsborne Seeker and today I'll be reviewing AWAKEN Astral Blade, a fantasy science fiction Metroidvania game developed by Pidgeon Games and released on the 22nd of October 2024 for PC and PS5. The game tells the story of Tania, a bionic woman who is tasked with venturing into the depths of the mysterious Horace Islands in search of a missing investigation team that was sent there by Dr. Herveus, Tania's creator and leading figure of Orson Technologies, the research corporation responsible for her construction. Her mission won't be easy, since the Horace Islands are permeated by a form of energy called Karpas, which has turned their flora and fauna into vicious creatures that attack on sight. Blade in hand, Tania begins her exploration of this hostile realm, learning more about its troubled history while also discovering disturbing things about her own nature in the process. The narrative is conveyed mainly via dialogue and scattered documents as well as the occasional cutscene, and even though it didn't tread any new ground in terms of lore, it did have a couple of twists that I thought were very much unexpected. In that regard, I do wish to point out that the game does occasionally suffer from issues in terms of its translation from Chinese to English, making certain dialogue and texts feel a bit awkward, though not to a large extent. Finally, a major issue I came across on occasion was the fact that dialogue kept moving on automatically without me pressing the corresponding button, at times faster than I could read it, which may not be an issue if you're not interested in the story, but as someone who enjoys following the narrative, it definitely miffed me. When it comes to setting, Horace Islands are presented in a beautifully rendered, colorful visual style that does justice to the diverse range of biomes you will come across, with the presentation truly shining when it comes to the forested and cavernous areas, whose creativity in terms of flora and fauna was a standout aspect of the game for me. That being said, setting always needs to be accompanied by an appropriate amount of exploration to truly feel fleshed out, and I'm beyond happy to say that the map of AWAKEN Astral Blade is jam-packed with a ridiculous amount of collectibles to find, all of which contribute to the improvement of your character's statistics, making it well worth the effort for you to seek them out. Exploration-wise, the title's discoverables are mainly divided into 10 categories, namely ether, documents, fruit, accessories, energy boards, cats, costumes, golden eggs, alloys, as well as alien crystals. Ether is the game's main currency, can be collected by taking down enemies, destroying ether flowers, as well as completing side quests, and is used for a variety of different things, from purchasing items from merchants to improving your passive and active skills, all the way to upgrading your weapons. Documents provide lore snippets that shed light onto the world's history as well as your own past and the people you know. Fruits correspond to a few different types, from the ones that upgrade your health to those used to improve your healing flasks in terms of number held as well as amount of health recovered. Accessories are essentially the game's gear, which you can equip in order to receive various different beneficial effects, such as increased critical chance and damage, as well as elevated defense and movement speed, among others. You can only have a fixed number of accessories equipped at any given moment, which is dictated by the amount of energy you have at the time, since each item takes a certain amount to be utilized. And that's where energy boards come into play, with each one you discover increasing your energy cap by 10 points. Cats are our adorable little feline friends who can be found and rescued, resulting in a few extra gameplay options for you to activate in relation to exploration based on the number of cats you have saved, including the ability to see collectibles on the map. Costumes are very rare, though if you manage to discover them, you can change your appearance along with some added benefits such as increased health points and damage output. Golden eggs contain a special enemy that, when defeated, gives you a permanent boost to your attack damage. Finally, alloys are used to upgrade your weapon arsenal, and alien crystals can be given to a certain outlandish life form you find during the first few hours of the game, who provides useful items in return. I'm also glad to report that the map is incredibly easy to read, demonstrating each area's name and completion rate while also allowing you to establish your own manual markers, which you know is a beloved feature of mine. AWAKEN Astral Blade also features a handy fast travel system you unlock a few hours into the adventure, which allows you to teleport between save points in the blink of an eye. In terms of platforming, I was pleasantly surprised to discover that the game features a good number of acrobatic segments, some of which were quite challenging to overcome since they required snappy reflexes and a combination of the various different traversal abilities you gain in order to conquer them. The most difficult of them were optional, but they were more than worth the effort, since the finish line always rewarded you with some interesting equipment pieces which made the ordeal meaningful. They were by no means the most complex the genre has to offer, but they managed to entertain for what they were worth. The reason why I say that I was surprised by this aspect of AWAKEN Astral Blade is the fact that, going into the game, I was under the impression that platforming would probably be non-existent, given that the title's main draw had been a established as something very different from early on in my playthrough, and that was combat. Combat is arguably the main foundation of the game, which provides you 3 different weapons to play with, each one coming with its own set of combos. You start equipped with a sword, whose frenetic approach to combat quickly made it my favorite throughout the story. You eventually come across a large scythe, which is slower but does more damage, before finally finding some throwing stars which allow the destruction of enemies from a distance. The combo system is incredibly fun to explore, though you will probably end up using 2 or 3 of the more standard and easier to pull combos eventually due to their efficiency in delivering vast amounts of damage with minimal effort. Your arsenal can be upgraded at save points by using a combination of ether and alloys to improve critical chance and damage, as well as add some extra destructive properties such as a poison effect on your blade. Save points are actually the main locus of upgrading Tania, since from there you can also purchase active and passive skills from 2 different skill trees by using your ether points, manage your equipment, and monitor your overall game progression in terms of collectibles. Healing comes in the form of health vials, which you can upgrade in terms of amount carried and healing potency via a droid, the number of which replenishes after resting. I can't say I came across any particularly tough foes, since once I mastered the sword I was hacking and slashing through enemies like a death dancer, but the same cannot be said about the game's big bads, who were a whole different level of hurt. When it comes to bosses, I'm thrilled to inform you that AWAKEN Astral Blade features some of the most intense and challenging boss fights I've dealt with in the genre, with each villain being an event of their own, given that the vast majority of them had 2 phases. I can't say I was disappointed by a single abomination I duked it out with a few of them truly giving me a run for my money and making me question my skill before finally realizing certain patterns that allowed me to emerge victorious. The one complaint I have here is of technical nature, and that is the fact that the introductory video of most bosses seemed to lack sound, which really took a chunk out of the intensity I felt while starting a fight with them. Other than that, the bosses were a challenging blast to experience. Speaking of challenge, I'd say the game's overall difficulty leans toward the harder side, but that is more or less attributed to the aforementioned boss fights, since I found everything else to be quite manageable. That being said, you do unlock a hardcore level of difficulty after you beat the story, though I didn't try that out, so I can't speak about its intensity. As for length, it took me 9.5 hours to complete the game with the first of 2 endings and 85% completion rate, with an additional couple of hours necessary for getting the second ending and 100% completion, which requires of you to finish all side quests as far as I have understood. For a price of about $20, I feel like AWAKEN Astral Blade is worth the fee of admission, especially if you're a completionist. Before we conclude, I'd like to make special reference to an annoying issue I came across during some of the game's latter biomes, and that was the fact that I experienced some unexplainable frame rate drops that were quite noticeable, which for the life of me I couldn't understand, since said biomes didn't have much going on in terms of visual effects, aside from the one where it rained. I believe a bit of work is necessary in terms of optimization to make sure the experience remains smooth overall. In conclusion, I loved my time with AWAKEN Astral Blade. The story was intriguing despite some predictability, the visuals were beautiful, combat and exploration were intensely satisfying, and most of the bosses were magnificent. Some issues with translation did cause a bit of confusion story-wise, bits of dialogue did move forward automatically in a hectic way at times, there was the issue where sound would cut off during the introductory videos of the bosses, and I also faced the aforementioned frame rate issues in some of the latter biomes, but I cannot deny that AWAKEN Astral Blade is one of the better Metroidvania outings of 2024 and a game I'd recommend to fans of the genre. My final verdict on AWAKEN Astral Blade is 8 out of 10. What did you think about AWAKEN Astral Blade? Have you played it yet? Do you agree with the points I mentioned, or do you see things differently? Let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Soulsborne Seeker out!